Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Young. I'm just going to do a quick video on the forestry industry in Canada. The forestry industry is one of those key industries in Canada because most provinces you deal with, even the territories, have some sort of forestry relationship, and it's a key area because it drives softwood lumber, which drives housing starts both domestically and for the export market. So what I want to do is kind of drive through a couple things here. Typically with forestry, it's a lifeblood to rural communities, especially when you get into the north, when you get into Hearst, you get into Kapuskasing, you get into Kirkland Lake, you get into ridings like Nathan Collins area, you get into Prince Rupert, you get into other areas of the country, Prince George as well, that basically the forestry is a critical component to its economy. And it generates about 2% of GDP each year, so about 58 billion annually of GDP. Now, the reason I bring that up is because throughout this election, Thomas Mulcair has been pretty clear that his only focus has been on aerospace and automotive. He constantly says he's a champion for manufacturing, but yet he lacks a clear, coherent strategy across all sectors. He's the first person that will call out Harper, saying Harper is only focused on oil, and yet Harper has handled innovation to all sectors, including forestry and food processing. So the only one that the two parties that are lacking the vision or doing more pandering and less with facts are Justin Trudeau of the Liberal Party and Thomas Mulcair. The second thing is Thomas Mulcair talks about this lovely trade deficit and the balance of payments. Quickly, trade deficits result from importing more than you're exporting. Forestry can lead to higher exports. So why wouldn't you, as a leader, a responsible prime minister, potential, whether you're Justin Trudeau or Thomas Mulcair, wouldn't you not promote exports to allow that inflow of cash, which then reduces that balance of payment deficit? All these things are interworking together. It's nice to talk with buzzwords, trade deficits, balance of payment deficits, Harper's only on oil, but realistically, those are not facts. Those are just terms they use to baffle the brains, okay? Let's talk about manufacturing sales. 8% of manufacturing sales on a monthly basis are forestry driven. That's pulp and paper, that's lumber, and lumber can be anything from board itself. We can actually get into pressure treated wood as well. There's all aspects of forestry. It's not just that we ship logs over, we actually can ship loads of lumber too. So we need to be very clear that the forestry sector is critical. That's why I brought it up in terms of its contribution. Now, why did I use Unifor here? Because Unifor loves Thomas Mulcair. They seem to be feeding Thomas Mulcair stats. They seem to be feeding this anything but Trudeau, anything but Stephen Harper campaign. Second thing is Jim Stafford, who is their so-called guru economist, never talks about these areas. It's always about Harper's bad, trade's bad. Yet, without trade and exports, which accumulate or equivalent to about 1/4 of GDP, you will not get the social programs that you're claiming that Harper's underfunded, like healthcare, education, and all that. Now, the reason I brought this slide up, this came from an article from the Windsor Star. The Windsor Star basically had the two people together. Mulcair does his powerful speech, and I'll give him credit. He's a good public speaker. Not competent in what he says. He's just a powerful speaker because he can shovel the BS. What he really doesn't talk about is a clear, coherent strategy. He's come out after the debate and basically said, we have a clear direction. No, you don't have a clear direction. What it has is you're picking your winners and losers, and you're picking a direction with angle policy that's not, lacks the depth, and because it lacks depth, it lacks the effectiveness. And this is what this article kind of highlights here. It basically shows you that DS says we don't want just an aerospace strategy, we don't just want an automotive strategy, we want a coherent strategy. In other words, give us a handout, give us maybe 800 million to $1 billion more in funds so we can offset these hydro costs, offset these cap and trade costs and policies. There was no coherent strategy to look at integrated strategy to keep the cost position of all aspects of costs, from the federal controlled taxation policies down to the provincial driven ones, which is stumpage fees, which is hydro rates, which is all the other regulations that go into developing resources. Let's talk about the election 2015. The forestry already had presented a 2020 plan in terms of sustainable development. It already exists there. And they've already worked with the federal government around the sustainable plan. It's funny. Have we heard Mulcair talk about it? He hasn't. Why? Because that would show that maybe Harper really does care about the environment. Okay? So Mulcair can't run on that, so what's he do? He's got to hammer him, right? So he's also telling you here that this sector can lead potential more growth in exports. Well, isn't Mulcair telling you that we've got a trade deficit? If we got a trade deficit, don't we need surpluses? So realistically, none of the two parties that are fighting for that left vote have been clear and coherent on export strategy. They've been clear on subtle points on different aspects, but those policies are too narrow. Justin Trudeau's focused on infrastructure. However, if infrastructure doesn't build the right business case that generates a rate of return or also supports long-term growth in terms of port development and expanding exports, then that strategy is a failure. Mulcair thinks, I will tax the high people because they should pay a little bit more into it. Yet, he then wants to turn around and give them all these innovation funds to help them. So where does he really stand on a coherent business strategy? He doesn't. The only leader that has a coherent strategy of low tax, negotiating with trade agreements, and looking at key infrastructure investments is Stephen Harper.